Okay, Shalom, wonderful lesson ahead. Daniel and Messiah cut off. He was no more. Let's go and have a look. This is so wonderful. The Gematria is so brilliant. Okay, Shalom. It's got this incredibly messianic verse from Daniel. And after the 62 weeks, the anointed one, the Moshiach, will be cut off, and he will be no more. And the people of the coming monarch will destroy the city and the sanctuary, and his end will come about by inundation. And until the end of the war, it will be cut off into desolation. So that's Daniel 9:26. Okay, so I'm not really all that into prophecy. What I am into is revealing revelation through Gematria and seeing how that points to what we've actually experienced in 2,000 years of Edomite exile, and also how that then is married up and yoked to the Torah of Moshe. Okay, so there's a lot in there, obviously, and I'm going to be looking at a very small part of it that I think is extremely significant. Why? Because it says, and the Moshiach will be cut off, we'ein lo, and he will be no more. And it can even be translated as, and not for himself. Okay, so if he's going to be no more, what does that mean? And if it's not for himself, then possibly it's going to be revealing, well, for what purpose is he cut off then? Okay, so there's a lot of codes in here. Let's go and have a look at what those codes are. First of all, there's a lot of numbers there. We're going to be looking at some of them. Just to point out, the first code is right there in the first sentence, 62 weeks. So that's 62 times 7. 62 times 7 is 434, which is Moshiach ben Dawid. So straight away we know this is talking about something highly messianic, and straight away we've got a very powerful code. Okay, so not everything is as it appears on the outside, on the surface. Let's go and have a look at some of these numbers. Right, so this is a massive connection for us. And the rabbis say, the Rabbanon say, the leper of the house of Rabbi Yehuda Anasai is his name. Comes to 1,364, which is exactly the same as all the fillings out at the different levels of Asiyah, Yetzirah, Bria and Atziluth. For we'ein lo comes to 1,364, the complete filling out of it is pointing to this particular section of Talmud, as it is highly revelatory in terms of who the Moshiach is. On the previous lessons I have made it very clear who the actual Moshiach is. The actual Moshiach is Moshe, but Moshe was reincarnated. Moshe, who was Nasai, he was the 71st out of over 70 other elders. He had the spirit of Moshiach upon him, and 71 is Yonah, Israel and the nations. Okay, and eyes are very much connected to the whole concept of the Sanhedrin, because they're the eyes of Israel. But Yonah is known for her dove eyes. Why? Because Yonah is only zealous for her mate. Zealous for her mate, and the Mashiach is only zealous for the Holy Shekinah, or a revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, and cannot serve or be with anything other than that. So the Yonah is this faithful bird. She'll only mate with her partner, nobody else, likewise the male, and the mate for life. Okay, somebody who's at the office of Nasai, the office of Moshe, the office of the Mashiach, the office of the Yonah, the 71st out of the 71st, the one who sits in the seat of Moshe, that is the Mashiach, is faithful only to the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, nothing else beside that. Moshe was faithful to serve Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, nothing else beside. Mashiach ben Yosef, faithful to serve Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, nothing else beside. You've got to understand the level of a dove. You've got to understand they do not commit adultery with other gods. They do not worship lies and falsehood. They are totally faithful. Faithful means truthful. Okay. And from here, And we know the connection now. We've got it right away from Daniel. The connection between the Moshiach and the one who is no more. Or he was cut off not for himself. Is connected to this particular concept of Moshiach as found in the Talmud. And the Rabbanon, the rabbis say, the leper of the house of Rabbi Yehuda Anasseh is his name. Okay, so what is the house of Rabbi Yehuda Anasseh? It's the rabbi. It's the house of Hillel. Shimon ben Hillel was Hillel's son. He was Nassai. He was Yonah. Okay, he was the 71st, just like Moshe. He is coded up with the name Shammai in the Talmud. Shammai is not a real name, by the way. Nowhere will you find that name Shammai in the entire Tanakh. It's a code name for heaven, which is a code name for the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. It says Shammai came in. Menachem went out, Shammai came in. And it says Shammai, Kaf Vav, which only ever means one thing. You will never see Kaf Vav as a word within. And look at this as well. This is the verse Kaf Vav. Okay, it's 26. It means Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. So Shammai is a code name for somebody who's brought about a revelation of his name, the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. And that would be somebody from the house of Rabbi Yehuda Anasseh, which is the house of Hillel, that was like a leper. Okay, there's only one person from the house of Hillel, or the house of Rabbi Yehuda Anasseh, that's treated like a leper. That's Shimon ben Hillel, who had his name erased. He had his name erased and he had a code name put in instead. Shammai was the code name. He was the son, Shammai was the son of Hillel. He was born in 50 BC. In 9 BC AD, when his father Hillel died at 120 years old, he took office of Nassai. Prior to that, as Shammai, he was Avbeth-Din. That would be when Menachem went out in BC 20, when he was 30 years old. He was Avbeth-Din. He got elevated up to the level of Nassai when his father died, Hillel. We are told in the Talmud that 100 years the rabbis from the house of Hillel were in office, the office of Nassai, the 71, the seat of Moshe, for 100 years prior to the destruction of the temple. We know Hillel was in. We don't know anything about Shimon ben Hillel because his name has been completely erased. We just know something about this man called Shammai. That is not a name, it's a code name for heaven. Shammaya. In the book of Daniel, it's wrote, I think, 22 times the word Shammaya. So all you need to do from Shammai is turn the Yud and the Aleph around and get Shammaya. It means heaven. There's all kinds of codes written into that. It's a code. It's not a name. Nowhere will you find that name within Torah. Not one person called by that name. He was Shimon ben Hillel because he had his name erased, and then this mysterious person that do not know the origins of Shammai. Why? Because he was Shimon ben Hillel, same person. All the dates around Shammai tie in perfectly to the dates around Shimon ben Hillel, the little we do know about him. So there had to be 4 rabbis, 4 Nassai from the house of Hillel prior to the destruction of the temple. Hillel, who died in AD 9 or 10, was 40 years. Gamliel was 20 years. That would have been the grandson of Hillel, and the son of Shimon ben Hillel was Gamliel. Shimon ben Gamliel, who was named after his grandfather Shimon ben Hillel, was 20 years. So that's 80 years. That leaves a gap of 20 years. We're told in Talmud that the rabbis who were Nassai for 100 years prior to the destruction are Hillel, Shimon, Gamliel, Shimon. So that means Shimon, Hillel's son. So we know how long in office of Nassai the others were, but because Shimon ben Hillel has his name completely erased from all the Talmud, we only have that one reference in Talmud to Shimon ben Hillel, and we only have a reference that there was in between those 4 in office 100 years. If we know that the others were in 80, then Shimon ben Hillel was in for 20 years. That would take him as Nassai from AD 9 or 10 when his father died up to AD 30. 20 years in office. In AD 30, it says, we're told, Shammai must have died. Shammai died. Okay. Exactly the same time, Shimon Kepha went to Rome and became the first pope in Rome. The exact time where the office, according to Talmud, of Shimon ben Hillel came to an end, AD 30. And we know how significant AD 30 is regarding the whole Christian movement, the whole Messianic movement. This was the day, supposedly, that we are told Yeshua died. Okay. This is probably some kind of coded message for the fact that the one who was the Moshiach ben Yosef was sold outside to Rome like a leper. He was put outside the camp of Israel and he had to go to Rome. He was sold out to Rome. At that same time, Shammai died, and then the house of Shammai took over. His disciples, his zealot disciples, took over the entire of the Sanhedrin at that point, up until AD 70. We're told Shimon Kepha was in Rome for probably about 40 years. They don't know the exact dates. So he would have been 8 years old, Shimon ben Hillel, when he went to Rome. Shammai, when he went to Rome in AD 30. Shimon Kepha, 8 years old, exact same age as Moshe. We are told we had to have a prophet like Moshe. Moshe was number 71. He was the dove. We're told that by Yeshua in the Gospels, the only sign I'll give a wicked and adulterous generation is the sign of the dove. It all ties in. All that I am saying now can be proven historically. We're not talking about ambiguity at all. We're talking about absolute clarity in these timings and dates. Okay, there's no ambiguity. These are documented dates, okay, within Judaism and within Christianity and other sources of history. So Shammai, who was Shimon ben Hillel, who was Shimon Kepha, who was Shimon bar Yonah, it's all one person, went to Rome in AD 30. He was the Moshiach with the illumination, the anointing upon him of Moshe, elevated up to the level of Moshiach ben Yosef. He'd received the upper face as well as the lower face, and then he was put outside the camp into Rome. We don't know what happened prior to that, how it was linked to what we're told in the New Testament, the raising of the dead and the healing of the lepers and the healing of people and the revelation, the words that came out that actually reveal that upper name of Yod-Heh-Wawi above the Torah and confront these Erev Rav forces that was in charge of Judaism at that time. Confront the authority with boldness that's usually that is associated with the revelation of that upper light, that upper face. Okay, so somehow he got exiled. The one who was the Nasi, not a baby in a manger, that's just a story made up by Ramban Yochanan ben Zakkai, who then became the head of rabbinical Judaism in AD 70, just prior to the destruction. This is key to understanding who the Mashiach is. This is why I'm going on. I've gone through all these dates before on the previous lessons that I've done about Shimon ben Hillel and Shammai and things like that. The Kedori note, Menachem the Essene, all these things I've talked about in previous lessons. But I'm just trying to tie some concepts together and pinpoint that exactly to this verse where we're told about the cutting off of Moshiach. Not for himself. Who for? For house of Israel. For the lost of the house of Israel. So, just like Moshe was 80 when he went into Mitzrayim, Shimon ben Hillel, Shimon Kepha, Shimon bar Yonah, Shammai, in AD 30 went into Rome at 80 years old. He was born, we're told, Shammai. We don't know when Shimon ben Hillel was born, but we know when Shammai was born, BC 50. So in AD 30, he was 80 years old, exactly the same age as Moshe. He was 40 years in the wilderness, exactly the same number of years that Moshe was in. He died in the 120th year. We don't know that for definite. We're given 2 dates that are very ambiguous with a reference to the fact that they don't know the exact date. So it's AD 64 or AD 68 he died. So we can say, because we have a precedent with Moshe, most likely died in his 120th year. Okay, very close. The actual timings that we do know are very close to that 120. He would have been exactly the same age as his father. Hillel lived to be 120 years old. So one, Shimon ben Hillel was a Nasai, exactly the same as Moshe. He was anointed with the spirit of Moshe, because all the people of the Sanhedrin were shmiked with the spirit that was on Moshe, which is the spirit of Moshiach. He was the Nasai, however. He came from Rabbi Yehuda's house, the house of Hillel. He was put out the camp of Israel like a leper. He had his name erased. He was the holy Yeshu. His name is completely erased. You won't find Shimon ben Hillel's name anywhere. He just got the code name Shemai Kofav. And we know that heaven, Shemai is Shemaya, heaven, and heaven is also a code name for the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. So it's all code name for us. We've got to start to pick out the traces that have been left for us. And also there's another aspect of the Talmud that talks about the leper in the house, the leper, the Moshiach is in the gates of Rome, untying his bandages one by one. So the leper of the house of Rabbi Yehuda Nasai is his name. So what's his name? Shimon. We told in Deuteronomy, the prophet that would come like me, like Moshe, we've got to tishma'un, listen to him. And that word even contains the word Shimon, tishmon, listen to him. Okay. Shimon ben Hillel, who was the Yonah, who had the eyes of the dove to serve only Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh and nothing else beside. He was the Moshiach. Faithful, totally complete faithfulness toward the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, nothing else beside. He was an anointed prince of the Sanhedrin, the head of the Sanhedrin. He was in the seat of Moshe himself. He was Shemai. He was Yitzhak. He was opposite his father. When Menachem went out and he came in BC 20, he was Beth Din, opposite his own father, like Yitzhak. We've got the Nishmat Kol Chai prayer that the rabbis say was written by Shimon Kefa, and it contains an acronym, one of Shimon and one of Yitzhak. We know Moshiach ben Yosef had to come instead of the son, Takath Beno, instead of his son, in the form of Yitzhak. He literally was a Yitzhak. The teachings of Shemai are on the side of Gevurah, the teachings of Hillel are on the side of Chesed. Everything is pointing to this, and now we've got this direct connection between the regular of this and all the filling out of We'ein Lo. The one who will be no more, or the one who is cut off not for himself. He didn't need to be cut off. Why? Because he had the eyes of a dove. He was in complete faithfulness and truthfulness and obedience to the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh is revealed to him. Look, some of the stories within the New Testament are the truth. Take off all the bits that are associated with the story of Yeshu from Toldoth Yeshu or Taliath Yeshu, the hanging of Esav. Because these are corrupted teachings. We know from within Judaism they are corrupted, infiltrated teachings. However, there's some profound Torah-based concepts in them. And we don't get these by accident. Everything is by the divine providence of God. Even the wickedness of man to conceal the truth is there through the divine providence of God. So we just have to have the faith. Well, these can even speak to us. So we have to look into the New Testament to draw out some of the truth, because nothing survives if it ain't got some truth within it. So we can see that some of the arguments and things like that are found from Yeshua within the Torah, within the New Testament, are speaking about somebody who's completely faithful to the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. It don't even matter when everybody is coming against him, and all the priests and all, they can't even stand against him. Okay, so we know that he's got a certain authority and a certain faithfulness to Yod-Heh-Waw. He doesn't compromise an inch. This is the sort of Moshiach. This is Moshiach. So there's all these wonderful things that we've got to try and start to understand now. Obviously, that can't be done in one lesson. I've got to do a lesson and go over the whole story of Rambam Yochanan ben Zakkai. I am not dishing Rambam Yochanan ben Zakkai. He had a role to play, a very messianic role to play, and he's done it. But we can't take everything at face value on the surface. We've got to dig deep to see what is all this hiding. What's all this conspiracy hiding? Concealing. He's concealing the truth about who the true Moshiach is. And it's concealed it with a story of a false Messiah called Yeshu. Okay, it's concealed it with a story of a false Mashiach. So a lot what we've got in the New Testament is just literally a story about a false Mashiach that's been cleaned up, and some truth regarding the revelation that came via the true Mashiach ben Yosef. Okay, so there's a lot to that, and I know it's very new for people. You got to understand to the degree we've been lied to. We've been lied to. We in the belly of the serpent. When are we going to get this? Nothing we've been told is truth in and of itself. We just got given darkness. We've got to transform it to light. We got evil. We've got to transform it to good. We got chaos. We've got to transform it to shalom. We did get nothing given to us handed to us on a plate. We got toil and blood and sweat and tears. Okay, so there's a lot in that, and that is his name. So we're looking for a name. The leper of the house of Rabbi Yehuda Anasai is his name, Shemo. His name is Shimon. Okay. And there we've got a connection, look. So she named him Shimon. Watikra Shemo Shimon. Shemo, his name. Shemo is Shimon. She named him, Leah named him. The triangular number of this is 1602. Exactly the same as this. If we added a kalel to this, one kalel, because this is what's been concealed, and the kalel is the one that conceals, it actually comes to 1603. In fact, the whole concept of kalel is related to Shimon and Reuven equaling Ephraim and Manasseh. Okay, and their gematrias are 731 for Shimon and Reuben, and Ephraim and Manasseh 732. And if they're going to be like one another, you've got to add one. A kalel, it stands for Aluf Shel Olam, Master of the Universe. Okay, so we know Shimon, he's the one that the rabbi said, the leper from the house of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is his name. I hope you're following with me, because this is a shock to a system. We've literally been spoon-fed. We've been spoon-fed lies, okay, that were controlled by Rome. Catholicism. We've also got a connection here to Shimon Kefa. Shimon Kefa comes to the regular and the ordinal. The regular and the Misbagadol ordinal comes to 229, and 1603 is 7 times 229. He will raise, lift the people, and prove, confirm that his word and his teaching, his law, Torah, stand and will endure. So this is the note of Kadore. Yeshua is a title for one who would be in the office of Moshiach ben Yosef. The one that would be anointed to reveal the upper face is called Yeshua. 335 is exactly the same as not for himself filled. Okay, so we've got the Kadori note. This is the Kadori note. Rabbi Kadori, who revealed the name of the Moshiach on that note. He really revealed the office of the Moshiach ben Yosef. 335 up there. The one who filled this office is Shimon ben Hillel, Shimon Kefa, Shimon bar Yonah, Shammai. Yosef ben Yaakov, the regular and the ordinal 513, exactly the same as a square ordinal up here. Okay, square ordinal of not for himself. Who are we talking about? Who is it that's not for himself? Who is it that is no more? Here, look, and he will be no more. Who? Yeshua. Joshua ben Yaakov, or the one who came as Yosef ben Yaakov. The Moshiach ben Yosef. And this is when Yaakov is spelt with additional vav. Okay? Additional vav represents the truth, Od Yosef Chai. And 117 is the filling out of Yeshua. Okay, when the vav is filled with a vav, the first filling out. Nes Gadol Hayasham, a great miracle happened there. 513, exactly the same as this. This is the letters on the dreidel, and these are what the letters on the dreidel mean. The Nun, Gimel, Haya, He, Shin, and they add up to, the Nun, Gimel, He, Shin adds up to Moshiach, and it's also related to Goshna. And Goshna is where the children of Israel went when they went into Egypt. They went into the land of Gosh. They went toward Goshen, and when you say toward Goshen, it's Goshna. Goshna. Gimel, Shin, Nun, He, exactly the same letters for Goshna. So a great miracle happened there, i.e. in Rome, because we was in Rome this time, not Goshna. Okay, but the Torah-based allusion to where the children of Israel are in exile within Egypt is Goshna. And as we can see, he went himself, not for himself. He went for the sake of the children of Israel, because this word here, this is connected to the children of Israel who went to Goshna. Went to Goshen, toward Goshen. You put a hay on when you're going towards something, so it becomes Goshna. 108, ordinal. Comes to 623, 3 times or, 3 times light. 621, however, 3 times 621 is the Atbash, the Mispah Gadol Atbash of not for himself. Into the pit, into the pit. So this is Yosef who was thrown into the pit. Habara wa habar, into the pit. 71, Yonah. Okay, the eyes, the dove's eyes. If you go 431 and add 2 kalel for each of the words, it comes to 433, which is exactly the same as Galuth. Okay, so this is the pit that Yosef was thrown in with the scorpions and also I'll read it out in a minute. Also 433 here is Galuth. He has been exiled. The pit that he has been exiled into is Edomite Galuth, right in the centre of exile Rome, the Vatican. Shimon bar Yonah is 739 plus 127, 866. So 2 times Galuth, or this plus Galuth. The fact Joseph was in the pit and in Galuth, add them together, 866. Shimon bar Yonah. Who is Shimon ben Hillel? Who's Shammai? Who is Shimon Kefa? Who is the Yeshua? This is Yeshua filled out. He's the office of Yeshua. He is the one here, look, Yehoshua. Yehoshua. So it's the name of the one who reveals the level of the name at the level of Keter. And they took him and cast him into a pit. Now the pit was empty. There was no water in it. They took him to the place where there was no water. They took him to Rome. Dressed him in all the gods of Rome. Okay, so that's the verse. This is talking about Yosef, and it says here, now the pit was empty, there was no water in it. Since it says, this is Rashi's commentary, since it says now the pit was empty, do I not know that there was no water in it? For what purpose did the Torah write? There was no water in it. Ein bo, we've got up here, ein lo. The one, there is a connection. no water in it, but there were snakes and scorpions in it. And we are told that the Torah is given in a place of snakes and scorpions and snakes, vipers and scorpions, because it's only, you see, this light that we are given, i.e. a revelation of his name, it is only when we contend with the forces of the snake and the viper and the scorpion, in these places where there's no water, in the territory of Satan himself, which is the desert, in the pits of life, that's when the full power of his name is revealed. So there's a purpose. That's where Torah is clarified. Do you know why? Because in those experiences, when we've lived through them, and then we have gained all the wisdom that we have gained from that experience, and especially when we are employing the Torah through our experience, we're clinging to the Torah and things like that. When we get to the other end of it and look back, we can see this incredible divine hand of providence that's guided us through step by step, and it brings us to that place of salvation. You know, and it's there where we really learn the power of the Torah. We really learn the power of the holy name to protect us and guide us and love us. And we know that there's only him and nothing else beside. Why? Because none of the forces of evil could defeat him. None of the darkness could overwhelm him. We survived. You know, and when we survive, the name survives. We are witnesses to his name. Okay, so it's all beautiful. There's purpose in everything. So we're going to look at a Shemai anagram now. Let's have a look. First of all, let me bring this one up. So this is from Daniel, not to himself, for he was no more. The Moshiach was cut off. He vanished. It said Shemai died AD 30. Shimon ben Hillel, we don't know anything about him. He was no more. Literally, he was no more. Why is nothing written about Shimon ben Hillel? What did he do so wrong? All right. What did they want to hide? Okay. They wanted to hide the truth. They wanted to hide the truth. So Shemai was no more in AD 30. Shimon Kefa went to Rome AD 30. Shimon Hillel, well, we know that nothing written about him. We know that his code name is Shemai. And then Shimon Bar Yonah, it's a title for the one who was one Nasai, the 71st, and he had the eyes like a dove, total faithfulness to the name of Yod-Heh-Wah was revealed to him. And this here was Shach. Just wait a minute. Okay, so this here is actually, all right, yeah, it's an anagram of Shemai. So Osim, Wasok Osim Kesutom. This Osim is Shemai, an anagram for Shemai. I make sackcloth their raiment. Okay, so that's where the connection is to Shemai. But as we can see, it's also connected. Shemai is connected to the one who was cut off, but not for himself. Because the Atbash is 1,863, and we've already pointed out that's 3 times 621, 9 times 207. And as we can see here, the filling out at all the 4 levels, all the 4 worlds, is 4 times 1,863. Absolutely connected to this, the one that was not cut off. And this is an anagram of Shemai, Shemaiah, which we know is a coded name for one who would come, Kof Vav, in the name of Yod-Heh-Wah. The Mispar Kadima of this is 6 times 833, and 833 is Yeshua, square ordinal of Yeshua. So then again, we've got it connected to the office of Yeshua, the office of the Moshiach, who would come in the name of Yod-Heh-Wah above the letter of the Torah. Neskadol Hayasham, we've already gone through that. The 621 connected to that again. This here, and he rode on a cherub and did fly, he swooped on the wings of the wind. This is talking about Yod-Heh-Wah here. Comes to a Mispar Gadol that's equal to this. Okay, and in a lot of ways, the whole concept of Mashiach ben Yosef is linked to the whole concept of the cherubim. through the concept of Metatron. It's quite complicated. There's a lot of teachings that are corrupted regarding the concept of one Moshiach ben Yosef, or the whole concept of Moshiach ben Yosef in particular, which is the secret dimension of the Torah. So really this is even coded message. He rode on a cherub. It's supposed to be two cherubs on the mercy seat that Yod-Heh sits on, and this refers to just the one cherub, and the sages say that this one cherub is Metatron, and Vilna Gaon says Metatron is Moshiach ben Yosef. So how has he accomplished whatever he's got to accomplish? It's somehow connected to the fact that Yod-Heh has ridden on one cherub. Okay? Because the Ark of the Covenant containing the Torah of Moshe is in exile as well. So what is this one cherub that is rode on then? Well, during Edomite exile, he's predominantly been working through the power of Moshiach ben Yosef, which is the hidden name of Yod-Heh above the letter of the Torah, the hidden power that has really been in control throughout this entire Edomite exile. Even though it looks like Roman Catholicism and Vatican's been in control, really, truly, in control. There's only Yod-Heh, nothing else beside him. He has been through the soul of Moshiach ben Yosef, through the Holy Yechidah, through the hidden Or Aganus, through the soul of Moshiach that we're all a part of, by the way. It's an aspect of our own soul, at the level of Yechidah, that didn't fall. The perfect aspect of our own soul has been working with Yod-Heh during exile in a very concealed way. We're not even conscious of it. It's super consciousness. But working in exile in order to bring about a rectification for all Adam, to raise up the fallen aspect of our soul, so that we only have knowledge of God, because it's our knowledge of God that's fallen. And that aspect of Adam that didn't fall, the Holy Yechidah, because he hadn't kept a Shabbat, it's through the soul of Moshiach ben Yosef, it's in exile with us, suffering. It didn't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It doesn't need to be here. But it's in here helping us, protecting us from utter destruction. There's all ways of doing it. It's ultimately Yod-Heh, Waw-Heh, but you've got to understand the system. You know, it's a hidden way that Yod-Heh, Waw-Heh has been bringing all of humanity to a place of rectification from the consequences of the sin of eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil that's caused a collapsing of consciousness in man. This is the way that from inside the belly of the serpent we've been raised up to our status, and we'll eventually earn or merit to have the kingdom of heaven revealed on earth, and the one that will lead us will be Moshiach ben David. In the meantime, that preparation to get us to Mashiach, the level of Moshiach ben David, is being prepared through Yod-Heh united with the soul of Moshiach ben Yosef, and this is inspiring us in a very hidden, concealed, super conscious way throughout the entire Edomite exile. This is what I mean when I say about you've got to start to interpret things favourably, even man's evil that he's done and the plottings that he's done, and the conspiracy and the concealment and the darkness he's created. Ultimately, at a superconscious level, we're just doing what is required to do to rebuild Adam up to his fallen, his rectified status prior to the fall, and rectified Eve also. Okay, so there's lots to think about. Basically, everything's good. Basically, everything's good, even though it doesn't appear to be at this time. In and amongst that's a very hidden way that Yod-Heh is working with the soul of Moshiach ben Yosef, that we're all a part of, by the way, to raise us up to the level prior to us fall, and to put us in a state of continual ascent, to never suffer descent again, to never suffer death again, to just go from level to level to level to level. Continual, never-ending, ever-flourishing levels of tzemech, levels of permanent growth, permanent freshness, permanent vigour, renewing our strength like the eagles, all kinds of wonderful things like that. Just continual spiritual growth, no more falling down ever. Just wait a minute. Okay, so sorry, I just had to knock some things away quite in order. So you've got this concept of the serpent. So in exile, the Moshiach looks a whole lot like a serpent because it's swallowed, gulped down by the belly of the whale, the belly of the serpent. That is Roman Catholicism and the Vatican. Okay, the head, Satan. I'll just make it clear. By Satan. We gulped down by Satan himself. Okay. 359. And it's a lot like what Yeshua said. The Moshiach Yeshua, who is Shimon ben Hillel, said in the New Testament, you synagogue of Satan. Means your accusers. It's all right, isn't it, when we're huddled up in the belly of the serpent to be accusing everybody else of being evil. We're all stuck in the belly of the serpent. When we're gonna wake up to that one? We're all in trouble. we need to work together to get ourselves out. It's all right, isn't it? Oh, look at you, you're evil. We literally all gobbled down, and we're literally all of us in the belly of the serpent. Would none of us have escaped this horrendous exile? Everybody's in it, accusing everybody else of being evil. We literally are Satan. We literally are accusers. We can't help but accuse, can we? Because we are under the influence of Satan. And we think we're worshipping God. But all we're doing is adhering to the lies we've been told and serving the lies we've been told. That's how ridiculous it is. That's how exiled we are. We can't even spot. Hang on a minute, none of us have got the truth really, because look at all this chaos. When you see all the chaos and the death and the disease and the destruction and all the forces that are in power to manipulate the evil surveillance of humanity, the all-seeing eye of evil to exploit and manipulate the entire of humanity, what we have seen at this time through coronavirus, the extent to which the serpent is empowering this world. And we're still picking and poking at one another. Eating the crumbs that the devil will kick off his table at us. Comparing one to another when we're all gulped down in the belly of the serpent. We're wasting our time. We might as well unite to overcome this farce of illusion. We know the truth of his name. We know the difference between a lie and a truth. Really. We've just got to remember that. At one level, we are all conscious. You see this exile, it's so dark. It's so thick. The light is so big. We struggle. We just got to keep our mind focused on Yod He Wawi and serving him and nothing else beside. As you can see, the serpent and the first filling out of the serpent, the regular, add them together, 1,262, 2 times 621. Great miracle happened there. Where? In the belly of the serpent, by the way. Because, it won't defeat us eventually. Because look what it is really. 2 times 621. So 6 times light. 6 times awe. It's wonderful gematria when you look at it. And then we've got Sinai. Why would Sinai be related to the serpent? Because we don't get nothing given to us handing on as a plate. It's our work to toil to reveal that hidden light. I did some comparisons of Sinai and Sulam. Sinai is the revelation of the name within the Torah, the top of the mountain that very few people have seen, by the way, because they're still huddled at the bottom of the mountain. They don't want to get close to God because they don't want to change. They're so filled with ego, they don't want to change. Change frightens them. They feel wretched sinners, so they keep at the bottom of the mountain, huddled in fear under the mountain. Moshe was at the top. When he came down, his face glowed. He had to mask that up because of the people that were still subject to the forces of the other side. They'd been redeemed from Egypt, but Egypt had not been redeemed from them. So we've got this bottom of the ladder, top of the ladder. Bottom of the mountain, top of the mountain. Yaakov perceived, whilst he was on the rock, that his Shimon, Kepha, he was able to perceive the exile. We learned that we got that given in the wilderness, in Satan's own territory, the place of serpents, snakes, vipers, scorpions. Okay, we got the Torah given there. Guess where we got the Torah of Moshiach ben Yosef? You guessed it, right there in Satan's own territory, Rome. Okay, we got it. You want to get to the top of the ladder, you're going to have to fight every force of evil to get there. You're going to have to, it's angels that are ascending and descending. You're going to have to get up a ladder, and they're the angels of exile, and go against all those forces of exile, all those delusions, all those fantasies, all those lies, and to get to the top, to perceive the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, at the top of the ladder. That is the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. That is Yeshua, Yeshua Sah HaPanim. It's a revelation of his name that's at the top of the ladder. It's a revelation of the name that's at the top of Mount Sinai. It's just a revelation of the name. But unfortunately, we weren't ready to receive that. So Moshe had to smash the original Lukoth, just a revelation of his name, up, give him a lot of rules and regulations to do instead. Because it was at the bottom of the ladder. You had to meet them where they were at. They weren't ready for this illumination. They were frightened of it. That means death to them who's still enslaved in ego, even if that ego is slave mentality. It weren't like they were arrogant, was it? They'd be crushed to nothing. They needed to be built back up slowly, to feel good about themselves slowly. Traumatic experience can do this to you. You need rebuilding very slowly, very calm. You need a lot of shalom. Then you can receive that light. See, when they get rebuilt, after all that punishment and torture and slavery, then they can see that divine hand of providence that guided him in perfect love, shepherded him through all them hostile destinations in the desert, and guided him to the promised land. Then they get to the top of the mountain. Then they experience what Moshe experienced, the revelation of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. Then they get it. They had to toil for it. Likewise, the ladder. Yaakov in the Torah perceived it. He was at the bottom. He saw the ladder from heaven to earth, from earth to heaven. And at the top was Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. But we didn't get that handed to us on a plate either, because if we thought we was not prepared to receive the revelation that was at the top of the ladder that was the lower face, top of the mountain that was the lower face, wait until we see face to face the revelation of his name at the top of the ladder. That's the upper face. We mask that, because we aren't ready to receive that. We're just conscious that we are wicked. We're conscious that we're broken. We're conscious that we're traumatized. Our vessels can't contain that revelation. We'd shatter and break. Got to build ourselves up slowly. You see, but when we know that we have suffered collectively 2,000 years of exile, we know we're ready. We suffered enough. We broke enough. We broke and rebuilt enough. We suffered enough death, enough disease, enough destruction. Now we are ready. We have suffered that's not Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh became no more. It's a revelation of his name. His name became no more in this Edomite exile. But we have to build ourselves up. We have to build ourselves up. We have to remember Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. We have to remember the whole purpose of this exile. It's not to stay slaves to our lower nature. It's to build ourselves up to be able to receive that revelation of his upper face and lower face and unite them together as one. That's what King David will do. The good shepherd. The one that guides us in a good way. Not these evil shepherds that are surveilling us with every means possible to know every little bit of detail so they can control us and manipulate us and exploit us and get us to do their dirty serpent work for them. We will be serving Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh and nothing else but him. And you see, our presence in this world at this time is causing a big stir to these people that realise that no matter how much they have tried to deceive the entire of the universe, the entire of humanity, through every single evil means possible, still the truth is here. And it is this truth that dominates over those lies. They have not defeated nothing, because there's only Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, and you see, the harder they try, the more darkness we have got to transform into light. All they are doing to us is giving us a work to do. That's it. They are serving Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh because from their filth, from their lies, from their darkness, from that is opposite Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, we can reveal from this concealment the greatest revelation possible. The harder they try to do evil, the more they empower us to reveal his name, his authority, his oneness. They must be afraid now, because they do not exist in and of themselves. They are simply serving the King over kings of kings, whether they know it or not. Okay, so there's only Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, and this whole experience is proving that. There's nothing. They have no power. They have no power except what Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh gave them for the purpose of revealing his name, absolute sovereignty and absolute oneness. And they have tried very hard to rebel against his authority. And the harder they have rebelled, the more they have been subject to it. There's only Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, nothing else beside them. They have no independent power whatsoever. Evil has no independent power. Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh's got a plan. Only his plan will be accomplished. They can try as hard as they want to be doing something other than fulfilling his plan. Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh's plan is emptiness and vanity. It's just nothing. Nothing. Now the Lord God said, Behold, man has become like one of us, having the ability of knowing good and evil. And now, lest he stretch forth his hand and take also from the tree of life. We have been blocked from accessing the tree of life for a good. 621 ordinarily connected to light. And all this that we've talked about. Yaakov and Yosef added together come to 1371. Connected up to the triangular number of this statement. That is an anagram for Shemai. Shortness of breath, and because of their hard labour. So there were slaves. There were slaves in Egypt. They couldn't even breathe. When you're stressed and traumatized, you can hardly breathe. Do you know what happens when you can't breathe? You flip. This is physiologically. Stress causes you to go to use the back of your brain. Your survival instinct kicks in. Your body is flooded with stress hormones. All you're worried about is survival. You're not rationalising any amount of reality. You can hardly breathe. You're like this. Shortness of breath. This is describing what there was like prior to redemption. This is the old state. This world is manic. Stressed and traumatised to absolute levels. Imagine living to see what we're seeing with all these Hamas supporters in the world, knowing how crazy everybody is to do evil. It's stressful. This is related to this. And I make sackcloth their raiment and this. Do you know why? Because there's got to be unity between Yaakov and Yosef. Yaakov represents the lower face. Yosef, even though he's at the level of Yesod, he represents a manifestation of Keter, the upper face. And this is what feeds into Malkuth to establish the kingdom of David. It's all wonderfully connected. So these are square ordinals. 1371. That unity has got to occur. Yaakov has got to be aware that Yosef is still alive. It's all connected to that too. This 588 is another powerful connection. Moshe, regular and ordinal. Yeshua, regular and ordinal. And Yeshu, even the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef in exile with us, diminished, suffering, a name erased, cursed. It's all part of it. Got to transform the curse into the blessing. Add them all up together, 1176 connected to this. Shortness of breath. Until we get there, until we get that unity, where even the evil that we've experienced becomes part of the good, the revelation, because it caused us to toil in ways we can't even imagine. We didn't get it handed to us on a plate. We're children of the King. We don't belong in this situation. We've been tested to the maximum, tested for what? To see if we'll be maintaining our faithfulness to do his commandments, which are what? A revelation of his name ultimately. Hidden in there is a revelation of his name. We are brought down to our level wherever we're at. So it looks like do's and don'ts, but hidden in that is a revelation of his name. We're children of the King, trying to reveal his name in thought, word and deed throughout the entire world, despite the darkness. Man has got free choice. He chooses to do evil. That doesn't matter. God gave him that choice. He isn't limited by man's evil choice. He isn't restricted in any way by man's evil choice. It will not determine whether his plan gets done or not. That'll only determine the amount man chooses to cause himself to suffer. God's plan, God don't change. He does. He's not sat there worrying if he's going to beat this evil. Will they defeat me with the evil choices? No. He's totally and utterly sovereign. He totally utterly changes not. He has a plan, it will come to be. The evil is only serving God's plan. It's all accounted and factored in. There's nothing you can do to defeat the will of Yotewahwe. His plan is good. Man's plan is not good. So it's connected. We will be refined. I mean, even these concepts, we're trying to understand them at our level. There will be higher and higher and higher that we go, and our consciousness is elevated up. And some of these super conscious levels that we don't have access to yet, we will grow and mature and have access to. Even the words that we're speaking now will probably be like fairy stories compared to the levels of revelation that we'll ultimately end up accessing. We've got to talk the language of the world in which we live in and what we've experienced. But you know, our soul is able to perceive spiritual things in much different ways. And sometimes that feeds even us down here. Gives us illumination in a way that we might not even be able to comprehend at one level of consciousness. I don't want to get tangled up. We've got a work to do, basically. And sometimes that work is really hard. We're definitely collectively in a crucible of poverty and testing, and it's really pushed to us to our absolute limit. We are being tested to the limit because we're made in the image of Yotewahwe. Okay, and this has got to be proven to the absolute maximum. In whose image are we made? In his image. He says we're made in the image of God, but our God is Yotewahwe. So we're ultimately made in his image, and he's only good. He changes not. He's only good, and he's only kind. He's only truthful. He's only forgiving. He's only compassionate. He's only merciful. We are made in that image. Somewhere hidden in us is that image. The image of God. But like I say, our God is Yotewahwe. Yotewahwe is our Elohim. If he's our Elohim, we're made in his image. We are made to be able to, instead of doing all this evil, we are made to do in accordance to that name. Okay, but that name is hidden in our flesh. That is capable of choosing to do something other. Something evil. We do choose evil. But deep down, you see, we're made in his image. And deep down at a superconscious level, we are pushing to see this final revelation where man is corrected. We are co-workers in this whole process of rectification. And crush the copper serpent. That's what we're in the process of doing too. Because the copper serpent really represents the concept of the false Moshiach, that represents an obscuring and a concealment of the name of Yotewahwe. The true Moshiach reveals the name of Yotewahwe, but we're hell-bent on worshipping this copper serpent, the false concept of Moshiach, that doesn't even exist. We've got false notions of the Moshiach that are equivalent to a raised cobra instead of the tefillin. We need to remove this serpent. We need to he's sitting at our seat of knowledge, our da'ath. Our da'ath has fallen down. Raised up serpent. Raised serpent is there instead. Like what all the pharaohs had on their hearts. The raised up serpent. Instead of the true knowledge, which is Moshe, the Moshiach, at the place of Golgotha. Raised up. We've got to have a rectified concept of the concept of Moshiach. This is restored da'ath. On Da'ath then is the two crowns of Gevurah and Chesed. So we don't have a split personality because those crowns have fallen down into the right and left. We don't really know how to discern good from bad because we're not mature. Our knowledge is fallen down into our flesh. We're trying to perceive. We're trying to create a knowledge of God based on our flesh's experience of exile. We're going to fail with that one. We've got to focus on the part that we need to focus on, rebuilding an accurate, true understanding of Moshiach. Through this restored knowledge, we will know God. Okay, and we rectify the problem of eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil that caused our knowledge of the name of Yod-Heh-Wah, the tree of life, to fall down into this consciousness that has crushed our consciousness to smithereens, so we can't comprehend true reality. But when we're looking at things like this, we should be able to access a little bit more and more. Seek and you shall find. The truth shall set you free from your lower ways of thinking and the lies you inherited, to keep you in a place where your flesh is stimulated with arrogance, puffed up. You've got to be humble. Moshe was humble. The Torah of Moshe is pure humility. The Torah of Moshiach ben Yosef is pure humility. Eat this bread. But no, we didn't want the bread from heaven, did we? That rotten bread. We don't want it handed to us on a plate. No, we want to wrestle with snakes and scorpions. We want throw us in the pit. Throw us in the pit. Put us against the biggest serpent you can create. There's part of us, there must be part of us like really excited to be wrestling. Do you think you've been bitten off more than you can chew though? It's not funny really when you've got Hamas parading down the streets and all this lot. You're wondering, well, should we have done this or not? Well, we're in here now. There's no way out apart from up, onwards and upwards. We've got to get out of this. We've got to get out of this exile. The truth shall set us free. So we've got to start to seek the truth, even in amongst all this chaos. We've got to take that chaos and turn it to truth. A lot of these recent teachings of mine have been inspired from the horror show of the 7th of October. You know, you don't want to say thank you, God, for showing us such evil to waken us up. But, you know, it came to that, unfortunately. We saw evil, it's come to that. Okay, so we just have to accept, you know, that we were so unrefined. It took that level of shock to bring us to our senses, to start asking questions, for our soul to be so alarmed, thinking what is going on now. And we've got to, some part of us digs deeper. Some part of us cannot accept this. Some part of us starts to fight back. Some part of us is just where can I? You want to pick up your swords and start to slay this serpent once and for all because you're about sick of it now. You know, there's something within us that, you know, if you've got any strength left to bring this monster down, let it be shown now. It provokes you to action, like King David, the Goliath provoked him to think. Hang on a minute. We come in the name of Yod-Heh-Wah. Now what's this all about? And you start to dig deep. You want answers. You're not satisfied with the status quo. It's unacceptable to you. You know, and part of these teachings are a little bit motivated like that. I am sorry, I'm so evil. I have had to live to see the 7th of October. All I can do is try and rectify that evil that caused me to see that. You know, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are thinking like that. It's, you know, like, let's tidy ourselves up now. We don't need to see this anymore. You know, and we've got to think like that. We haven't got time to waste now. It's got to put on our Shabbat clothes. We got to be ready for the King of Kings. He's making something stirring. He's about to enter. Get on your best clothes. It means best thoughts, best words, best deeds. Be seen doing what we have got to do right now, what we are provoked and inspired to do. Don't put it off. Don't think, all right, I'll just, start that business and I'll just put all my energies in that direction just because. No, we sin now, the birth pangs, the baby's on his way. Get ready and start be doing what we should have been doing a long time ago, to try and prevent more horror shows from happening. Let's be doing what we should have been doing a long time ago now, and prevent any more catastrophes. Let's roll with this as long as we can. Right, so the Mispah Gadol ordinal come to 7,452, 12 times 621, 36 times 700. 36 is layer, isn't it? But it's also the number of righteous times 207, light. And the Lord God will circumcise your heart and your heart of your offspring, so that you may love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and for the sake of your life. We're not alive unless we're connected to the tree of life. This is the name of Yod-Heh-Wah. Everything else is in vain. We'll be literally causing the concealment. And it's humbling again, isn't it? You got to humble yourself. You got to imitate the name of Yod-Heh-Wah. You got to be forgiving. You got to be kind. You got to think kind. You got to be compassionate. You got to be truthful. Not easy. Okay, it's not easy. God will do it. God will help us. Thinking about Yod-Heh-Wah, thinking about what he's trying to do, it helps us to circumcise our heart, because we think to ourselves, okay, so this darkness, what can I do to bring about a revelation from that darkness? How can I turn this suffering into something good? Through imitating the name, through doing the commandments, through loving your neighbour, through loving God, just acts of kindness, acts of charity. Be sure about that now. We need to show love. We need to show love. We need to love God. We need to love his name. We need to think about his name, speak about his name, and do in accordance to his name. We need to love, not out of fear, because he's worth serving. There's only him worth serving. Everything else is nothing. It's meaningless. It's vanity and emptiness. It's no purpose in and of itself except to reveal his name. We want to reveal his love. We don't want to suffer the consequence of all the other human beings that have turned their back on his name and are serving something else. The jealous for death, the jealous for judgment, the jealous for suffering, the jealous for war, the jealous for everything, the jealous for control, the jealous for money. We're not jealous for the name of Yod-Heh-Wah. They're jealous for religion, dogma, everything, separation. The problem with the right reason why this light of Moshiach ben Yosef had to go into concealment, because of zealots. Let's be zealot for the right thing. Let's be zealot to reveal his love. Let's be zealous to reveal his kindness toward humanity, his mercy, his compassion, his patience, his forgiveness, his charity and righteousness. Let's be zealous for that. Let's see if it works. I think it will. I am confident. I have complete trust in his name. I have absolutely no trust whatsoever in anything other than his name. I don't put my faith in anything other. Wars are not going to solve the problems of humanity ever. Okay? Only imitating his name. That's the only thing that has true power. We got to start to waken up. Put on those garments of his name. Put on your Shabbat clothes. That's the way Vilna Gaon calls it. That means your best thoughts, your best words, your best deeds. Put them on now. Clean yourself up. The king is on his way. It's the banquet. It's the wedding feast of the king. Okay, let's be ready. Let's be like those wise virgins. Ready we are, oil in our lamps, even during the night. The Lord your God is a God of gods and the Lord of lords, the mighty, the great, mighty and awesome God who will show no favour, nor will he take a bribe. So that's 621. There's nobody else other than him. There's nobody else other than him. He's not motivated by anything other than love. He simply loves us. And we somehow have turned our back on that because we have been tested. Okay, we have been put to a test. Will we remember him? Okay, it's a big test. So let's just go back. Okay, so right, I've just had to bring this through. So we can see from the filled that at the level of Yetzirah and Briah, it comes to 337. This filled. So that would be when the Vav is filled with an Aleph both times. So that's why they're the same. They're filled with an Aleph at the level of Yetzirah, and the Vav is filled with an Aleph also at the level of Briah. So there's a lot to be connected about with this. First of all, truth shall sprout from the earth, righteousness will look down from heaven. Okay, so we didn't get truth handed to us on a plate. We were literally toiling to reveal the bread from the earth. You know, we didn't want the bread from heaven. No, that was rotten bread. We'll toil for it. Well, you will toil for it. You're not wrong there. What about 2,000 years of Edomite exile? Okay, and that's what we've been going through. It's put simply like that. It's really not a joke. There's something in us that desires that. It's the way that we're made. You know, we must be made that way, that we're not satisfied to just get things given to us. We want to go through the whole process. We don't want to be told what to do. We want to discover what to do for ourselves. We don't just want to be saying, this is the Torah, this is who I am. No, we want to reveal it through the efforts that we put in ourselves and all our life's experiences. We want to confirm that ultimate truth. There's something that we are made that way, you know, and that includes all that we have endured in 2,000 years of exile, Edomite exile. Collectively there's something, individually there's something that wants to overcome these forces of darkness and evil and transform them into light. So truth will sprout from the earth, and that word is emet, me'eretz, titzmach. And that word titzmach is related to the branch or the names of Moshiach, because this is what we're trying to attain. We're trying to attain perpetual growth, like a branch on a tree that is continually growing and ever flourishing, set next to, you know, water courses. That's the level that we're wanting to attain. Permanent elevation, permanent growth, permanent maturity, permanent fruitfulness. Emet me'eretz titzmach. Truth will sprout from the earth. You know, and we'll look down from heaven. So we'll get that connect, won't we? When we create the truth below, the truth will be revealed above. 337, it is a process. We are nearly at the end of that process. Keep the Shabbat day to sanctify it. So this is really, really very much connected to the Jewish people. There's remember the Shabbat for whole humanity. Is keep Shabbat. This is the house of Israel. They've got to be Shomer Shabbat. They've got to guard the Shabbat. You know, because the Shabbat is to remember the Shabbat is like to remember we're in this process of rectification for an ultimate reason. You know, we're going to have our day of rest. We're going to have our millennium of rest. We're going to be having our millennium kingdom on earth as is in heaven. You know, we're going to get that Shabbat day, but even then we'll have to sanctify it. But we've got to remember it and we've got to guard it. We've got to guard the Shabbats that we've got now, because they're going to bring us to that place of the ultimate Shabbat, the Millennium Kingdom. It's all wonderful. But that is the filling out of Keep the Shabbat, Say, Sanctify it. 15,502, 2 times 7,751, 23, which is Chaya, the soul level of David, times 337. It's connected to this, isn't it? We've got to go through this, not for himself, the Moshiach being cut off, to get to this place. where we're able to keep the Shabbat in truth. Okay. Okay, so this is another phenomena. This is the concealment, isn't it? The Aleph. They've got the Mispagadol, regular and ordinal. They've got the regular and ordinal come to 141. Mispagadol, regular and ordinal come to 870. Add them together, 1011, 3 times 337. Also, 141 is Emuna. We're in a process of rectifying our faith to be totally faithful, like doves to the mate that is Yod-Heh-Wah, our mate that is Yod-Heh-Wah. We're totally and utterly only eyes for him. Nothing else beside him. 39, by the way, is the ordinal of Moshiach. Okay. And, well, 30 is very much connected to also Moshiach ben Yosef. Holy anointing oil. So this is the oil from the side of Gevurah. It's very much connected to the whole concept of Shimon, Shimei, the house of Lel, from the side of Yitzchak, Gevurah. This is the perfection of Gevurah. You know, the crown that we'll ultimately wear above our knowledge of the concept of Moshiach, restored knowledge, restored da'at, accessing the tree of life instead of tree of knowledge of good and evil. Right, so Shemen Mishhat Kodesh, regular and ordinal. Ordinal, by the way, is 156 Yosef. Add them together, 1,698. 2 times 849, we're going to be having a look at that. Mispagadol, however, regular and ordinal Mispagadol, 2,359, which is more than 3 times 337. Just let me have a look. It's 7 times 337. So 7, that's another one, isn't it? We want to get to the 7th day. We want to transform what is bitterness, what is harshness that is associated with the left-hand side, to the revelation of the Moshiach on the left-hand side, Moshiach ben Yosef. We've got to transform this darkness and bitterness into joy. Moshiach ben Yosef is associated with joy, Bina. And then here, this is 2 times 849. 849 is Yeshua Moshiach, regular and ordinal. It's also Tisha B'Av. The truth about Yeshua was revealed on Tisha B'Av. Why? Because when the temple was destroyed, just prior to destruction, Yeshua had given his believers signs to look for. When you see this, you know, like, get out. Get out of Jerusalem. Flee for your lives. And they did. And they went to Pella and they're all saved. The zealots kept those trapped in Jerusalem. The ones that betrayed the message. Talked about this before. New Testament tells us about Judas Iscariot, who was a zealot, who betrayed Yeshua, the revelation of the name, the upper face. The Moshiach betrayed the Moshiach to Rome. So he's put outside the camp. He has to go to Rome. Okay. Zealots took over. House of Shammai in AD 30 took over the entire Sanhedrin. All the rulings. They took over Jerusalem. Okay, they were very, very powerful, the zealots. Nobody dare say anything about them. I said, kill you. Okay. But what happened on the sacking of Jerusalem? The zealots all perished. Because they betrayed the message of his name, the upper face, the revelation of his name to be compassionate and kind and patient and loving and truthful and forgiving. Because they betrayed that message, it's a form of suicide. But in the big scheme of things, that light cannot come in without its equal opposite. Zealots was equal opposite that. When you look at what the zealots did, burning the storehouses down, so that all the people end up eating their own babies, you know, killing people for Shabbat desecration, just, you know, unmerciful. They carried a knife. Sakari is named after the knife. Judas Iscariot they carried a knife to instantly kill Shabbat desecrators. We're talking about keeping the Shabbat in holiness. Well, lekadsho, to sanctify it, not to murder people. That's what the zealots were doing. These betrayed the message. It's a form of suicide. They suicided themselves by doing that, by being so disgustingly harsh. They brought judgment upon themselves. Masada's the same. They brought this judgment upon themselves. We've seen an act of absolute zealousness with what happened on the 7th of October. I've talked about this on Reels on my Facebook account. These were connected to the Zealots. Islam was founded by the Zealots, the Essenes, the Ebionites. Okay, so there's some merit in that. But there's also a sting in the scorpion's tail. And they can be the most horrific, the most concealing force. Because they're concealing a very great light. Okay, so when you see these Zealots doing whatever they're doing, murdering and raping, and they think they're doing it in the name of God. They're zealous for the wrong thing. We've got to be more zealous than them. We've got to be more zealous for the name of Yod-Heh-Wah than what they are zealous for their lies and the deception and the delusion, the betrayal, the filthy garments. They think that they are being martyred to glorify God. How filthy and depraved and betrayed are their thoughts, words and deeds that would bring about such an action as 7th of October? You're dealing with zealots that cannot see the wood for the trees. We've got to erase this. We've got to overwhelm it with the truth. God is love. He is kind. He is forgiving. What message have you got your inspiration from? Satan. Okay, so it's all connected. Tisha B'Av, the zealots commit suicide. Those who believed in Yeshua were saved. Miraculously saved. They went to Pella. Miraculous salvation they experienced. So he was revealed. The truth about Moshiach was revealed on Tisha B'Av. And everybody at that time must have known. How do we know they knew? Because of the power to conceal that truth that they went to. The effort that they exerted to conceal the truth is indicative they knew the truth. And it all pivots around that Tisha B'Av. And as we can see, it's Yeshua HaMoshiach, holy. It's all connected. It's all perfect. Yonah, spelt out second filling where the Vav is filled with an Aleph. Okay. Who is Moshiach, Yeshua Mashiach? The 71st member of the Sanhedrin, who is in the seat of Moshe, who represents Moshe, who represents Yisrael, who represents the name of Yod-Heh-Wah, that is the Torah. 224 is 4 times HaMoshiach. 1077 is another. I can't go through all the numbers obviously today. Sets an end to darkness. This darkness will be no more. We have to buy our way out. Okay? Sometimes we've got to literally buy our way out. Charity. We've got to buy our way out of the belly of the serpent. Kate Shemla Choshek spells initial letters shekel. 888 is a spelling out of HaMoshiach. 3 times 337. Russia, regular and ordinal. This is also, I'm pretty sure 281 is connected to not for himself. 56 represents Teshuvah, the ordinal of Teshuvah. Teshuvah. 337. Vilna Gaon said, when you see Russia going into Crimea, get on your Shabbat clothes. Okay, we've seen that now. Russia is in the Crimea. Get on your Shabbat clothes. What does that mean? Best thoughts, best words, best deeds. Now get dressed. Get dressed ready for the king to come. He's on his way. This darkness is about to be end. Don't be exposed. We see when the darkness, everything's concealed now. Everything's concealed. Nobody can see our evil or anything like that. When the king comes and turns the light on, we'll be exposed for what we are. Make sure you're appropriately dressed. Don't embarrass yourself. When the light goes on, we can all see what we've been doing. We can all see the hidden evil. It's all fully exposed. Get your best dressed on now. Turn from that evil and do good now. Scrub up. Put your more effort in, because won't it be embarrassing when we've been found to be, all the filth and depravity with which we've covered ourselves. We've been able to hide in this darkness. Not when the light goes on. Not when the light goes on. repent, return now. Return now so you're not ashamed. You know, even if you're crying out to God, give charity for the things that you haven't got chance to overcome. Pay your debtors off before, whilst you can. There's all ways of looking at it, but don't be caught with your pants down when that light goes on. Don't be looking like a fool. We've had the warnings, now let's act. Don't void his Torah. Do not forsake his name. Because he was a son of his old age. This is Joseph, isn't it? He was a son of his old age. 337 and 130 is ayin. He ended up having his eye removed. He ended up having his dove eye removed, didn't he? It says it plucks out there. It's connected to the whole concept in the Talmud about Esav having his eye plucked out. I'm not going to go into that now, but there's connections. And concealments and conspiracies and all the rest, and all the web of deceit that we've got to toil with, all the filth and the dirt we've got to toil with in order to bring forth the true bread from the earth, the true revelation of the name of Yoteh-Waweh. Be found tilling and toiling this soil, because he was a son of his old age. So that's Israel loved him because he was a son, more than all the other brothers, because he was a son of his old age. So it's pointing something towards this, because he was really the Moshiach in disguise, and he knew about it, and he knew what work he had to do. Moshiach ben David, Moshiach ben Yosef, Moshiach ben Ephraim, had them all together. This is when David has got the Yud in it. Comes to 337. It's a revelation of the Moshiach, 337 essentially. Not for himself. Nope, not for himself. In all these capacities. The overhanging excess of the curtains in the tent. This is related to Serach, because that word Serach, the sages say, is related to the name of Serach, as in Serach Batasha, the one who found the bones of Yosef. 116 is 10 times Moshiach ben Yosef. It's also 10 times Let There Be Light, Yehi Or. 188 is Yaakov rectified. Add them together, 4 times 337. Sambation River, we've got to get across the Sambation River. It's all code name for Moshiach ben David. If we take the regular, the Misbagdol, add them together, come to 1004. 7 letters of Sambation, add to that. 7 concealments, 7 kollels. 1011, which is exactly the same as this Aleph up here, and exactly the same as he sets an end to darkness. It's a strange phenomena. It's a fast-flowing river. Okay, it's connected to with this Shabbat. Remember the Shabbat. It's going to guide you home. It's also connected to the 3 forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak and Yaakov. You want to get from one side of the river to the other, be like the Hebrews that went before you. Yitzhak, Yaakov and Abraham. There are 3 corded rope. You got to keep hold of them. When all the the forces of exile are bombarding against you, keep hold of that and get over on that rope. There was a very famous film called Inn of the Six Happiness, and it showed these Chinese escaping from the Japanese, and they had to cross this river, all these children, 100 children. It was a Chinese missionary. Wonderful, wonderful story, a really wonderfully inspiring story, just pure and innocent, and a total, utter... If you want to know what the Yoteh-Waweh has been doing in this world in exile, through the lost house of Yosef, spreading the light of his name to the nations, watch that film, Inn of the Six Happiness with Ingrid Bergman. I think that's her name. It epitomises what it actually is to be empowered with the light of that upper face. It epitomises it. The fearlessness, the innocence, the purity, the sincerity, and the guiding hand of divine providence. See that film. Know what it is we are fighting to reveal. It's a wonderful thing. It's been really hijacked by Rome, but it's a wonderful thing. It is that. And it shows in the film them crossing this river, And they get all these 100 children over a freezing cold river. They're starving. They've hardly had any food. They've got Japanese all around. They've very little resources. They're trying to get over this freezing cold river in China in winter and stuff like that. And they get them all over because they throw a rope over the river. And all of their lives are saved. All they've got to do is dry out the clothes when they get to the other side. And this reminds me of the three-corded rope. Abraham, Yitzhak and Yaakov. Do you know the only way we have got to get through and save, get to a place of salvation from all these forces of evil that come against us? Keep hold of that rope. You'll get through. Somehow you'll get through. You might have to dry your wet, cold clothes down. And they got to the other side and they're singing, trying to keep happy and so. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful film to inspire us to remember Yod-Heh Wah-Heh, to remember this light, to connect to this light, to bellow up the embers. It's wonderful. It reminds me of my own nana, actually. And then there you go, look. Treat of Yosef, swear ordinal misbagdol. 2022 is 6 times 337. You know, this world is getting darker and colder. And somehow we've been left guiding lights. And somehow we need to connect to that inspiration of Avraham, Yitzhak and Yaakov. But there are people in this world that have served as perfect ambassadors for the name of Yod-Heh Wah-Heh, perfect ambassadors within the letter of the Torah and above the letter of the Torah. We need to start to remember them now. Yosef was forgot. Remember Yosef, because by remembering Yosef, we'll be remembering Yod-Heh Wah-Heh also. Okay, it's not all about a serpent. It's not all about Roman Catholicism. It's about what's hidden in all that trash. And some really inspiring, wonderful things are hidden. Our own souls. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, so all her paths shalom. This is the tree of life in it. It says, they sing this on a Shabbat, Etz Chaim. All its ways are pleasantness and all its paths are peace. Nativoteho. This is you want to reach the place of shalom. Sometimes you can't go on the main paths. In this case, they're all pleasant, but sometimes to get to the place of peace, and we need peace now, we need to rebuild the vessels of Edom into shalom in Asaph, from Asaph to shalom. We've got to go on our own individual paths. Nativot are our own individual paths in life. If you watch that film, please go watch it. Even pay for to hire it. It's Inner the Sixth Happiness. You need to connect to these stories like Chariots of Fire and all this, inspirational Christian stories are truly good people. This woman was truly good. She was God told her to go to China when they were murdering Christian missionaries, and she went. She could have barely learned the language. It was based on a true story. Really beautiful, absolutely beautiful. She went on her own path, and these are the sorts of inspirations that are going to bring us to that place of shalom. It's 355, which was the filling out of and he was no more, were in law at the level of Atziluth. So this is connected to the sun. Hame'or Gadol Hayom. Those three words are describing the luminary that is defective, by the way, comes to 355. Active, intelligent intellect, which Rambam says is Metatron, which Vilna Gaon says is Moshiach ben Yosef. We're talking about the way God works in order to help, the way God works through the Holy Yechidah, through the Moshiach ben Yosef, to bring us to that place of rectification. 355. Okay. The horn, year, and this funny name of this angel, all 355. And this can be in here. In Sefer Cheshek, it is, and its circle. We have parallels for all the names of the angels that appear in the Machzor. This is talking about Rosh Hashanah Machzor, where it mentions Yeshua Sahapanim. the upper face, the face at the top of the ladder. Sometimes the angelic names appear in the same form and sometimes appear altered, but all of them are there. For example, Patsya, the name is an acronym for from the mouth of the Tzaddik in heaven to the mouth of the Tzaddik, God whispers wisdom. Both texts mention him in connection with the shofar blast. This name in Gematria equals Shana, Year, Keren, Horn. Moshiach is called a horn. Okay, I did about the cow's horns and the Tahamim in a recent video. The cow's horn and the day-old moon. Okay, Moshiach ben Yosef and Moshiach ben Dawid are referred to as the horn. 355. For when Israel plays the horn with shofar, immediately the book of merits of Israel is taken and the sacrifices of Isaac, who's Moshiach ben Yosef, is remembered. And God is filled with compassion, Rachamim, and he rebukes Satan, their accuser. Got an advocate. It's all connected. Korach. Okay, so eventually when he was confronted with Moshe in his present form was less than Korach. When what Korach could perceive within himself, he could perceive could perceive Shmuel, prophet Shmuel. Told in Psalms that Shmuel was equal to Moshe and Aaron, but what Korach couldn't perceive is what Moshe would become. Moshe became Moshiach ben Yosef. You see, and eventually Korach's son survived and went on to become Shmuel, prophet Shmuel, the prophet that anoints the kings of Israel. And God willing, he'll come soon and anoint Moshiach ben Dawid. But Korach could perceive his own potential, but he couldn't perceive what Moshe would become. You see, and in the Pirkei Avot, the mouth of the earth has got the same gematria as Yeshua. So what Moshe eventually became, Moshiach ben Yosef, swallowed Korach whole. Never underestimate another's potential. I might swallow you all. I've done teachings about that. I think they're still on. I took about 200 of my teachings off, but Korach was something that I did quite a lot about. It's basically, there's a lot that he rebelled against. He actually rebelled against he rebelled against the Moshiach that revealed the central pillar, the name of Yod-Heh-Wawi. He just wanted Malkuth to attach directly to Gevurah, but that was never part of Yod-Heh-Wawi's plan. He's always planned for the central pillar that is represented by Moshe, that comes in the name of Yod-Heh-Wawi, and that is what Malkuth is going to be attached to. It's also connected to the holy anointing oil, because that's on the side of Gevurah. There's things, but anyways, he's redeemed. He eventually repented, and from the place that swallowed him up, which is codename for Yeshua, he says Moshe is true, and his name is Moshe is true, and his Torah is true. Okay, they come from Korach, but like I say, being swallowed alive down into the hole is code name for Yeshua, salvation. So somehow Korach got swallowed down into the belly of the whale that represents, or the belly of the serpent that represents Moshiach ben Yosef, Yeshua. It comes to 386, which is Yeshua. I think it's PRRS. Comes to 386. I can't quite remember, but how it's mentioned in Pirkei Avot, the mouth of the earth that was created on the eve of the sixth day, or something like that. When it's talking about the creation of the certain things that are created, it talks about the mouth of the earth that swallowed Korach. The mouth of the earth comes to 386, same gematria as Yeshua. So it was Yeshua that swallowed him up. Okay, so who forms light and creates darkness, who makes peace and creates evil, and the Lord who makes all these. So he's given us a work to do. And we've got to transform one into the other, because you see, when who forms light is at the level of Yetzirah formations, Yotzer or Uvore, but creates darkness. Darkness is at the level of Briah, a much higher level. It's at the level of the Garden of Eden. Okay, the throne. So when we take the darkness and transform that darkness into light, it's higher than the original light. It's like the bread. The bread from heaven's at one light level, but the bread that we toil to bring forth from the earth through the darkness and the blood, sweat and tears is a higher level. Still bread, but it's a higher level. It's still light, but a higher level, because it's gone through a transformation and we've been part of that transformation. Likewise, who makes light? and creates evil. So the evil is at the level of, where is it now? Oseh Shalom, he makes peace. That's at the level of Asiyah, Uvareh, but he creates evil. So we take the evil and transform that into Shalom. Take Esav and transform that into Shalom. It's 2 levels higher than the Shalom that we just got given. So you see, this is why it's beneficial for us to toil with all these forces of darkness. However, these numbers are very significant because the ordinal is 8 times 355. However, if we look here, if we add the ordinal and the regular and the ordinal comes to Moshe. The ordinal and the regular added together, and we know 355 is related to Moshiach ben Yosef, who's likened to the sun. If we add the regular and the ordinal together, it comes to 3,295, 5 times 659. So that's Yeshua filled with the Yod, the highest level possible, regular and ordinal, added together 659. So this is an allusion to Moshe, the power of the Moshiach to do this. Add those together, 455 and 659 that are linked to here, we get 1,114, 2 times 557. And that is listen, filled at the level of Atziluth. Tishma'un, listen to the prophet like me, who is Shimon. Okay. Serach, however, the one who reveals the truth hidden regarding Moshiach ben Yosef, 2 times that is also Serach. So it's a union really, Yeshua, Moshe, Serach, and Yonah and things like that. All wonderful stuff. And then, and Enoch walked with God, and he was no longer Nenu. So it's connected again to that whole concept, isn't it, of he was no more. Enoch was no more. And Yod-Heh, Waw-Heh, the Moshiach was no more. And there's a connection through the teachings of the sages with Enoch to Moshiach ben Yosef, who is really the Na'ar. We're in a state of immaturity. We've got to go from a state of immaturity up to maturity. When we're fully mature, we're at the level of Moshiach ben Dawid. Okay, that's the final full maturity of man to attain the level of Moshiach ben Yosef, Moshiach ben Dawid. Moshiach ben Yosef is the throne Moshiach ben Dawid sits on, and it's all perfect gematria, and it's all pointing towards that. It's all wonderful stuff. Okay. And with that, I will say shalom. Please subscribe and share. I hope you've really enjoyed this video. I've really enjoyed making it. I think there's some things in here that we need for now. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Shalom.